Hey friends, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first Winterween vlog. If you're wondering, yes, it is the night before Winterween kicks off and I have started early on my TBR because I'm too excited. If you're like, what the heck are you even talking about? Winterween is a spooky readathon that I host in the wintertime in the month of January. I will have linked down below the Winterween announcement video if you missed it, where I go over all the different reading prompts we have for the week. We also have an Instagram. There's some posts over there saved that have like the reading prompts as well as like some Instagram photo challenges. We have all kinds of fun things planned for Winterween and I am really looking forward to this week. Like seriously, these readathons like Winterween and Summerween are like my babies and I look forward to them every single year, so I'm really excited. However, before we do jump into today's vlog, I wanted to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, which is Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and to help readers discover the books that they love. So every single month of the year, there are hundreds of books getting published and it can be kind of intimidating trying to keep up with all the new releases. And that's where Book of the Month comes in, because their team reads a few that they think that their audience would be the most intrigued by. And so every month they have at least 5 selections, sometimes they have even more. It's nice because you can spend more time reading instead of researching all the new things that are coming out. Book of the Month is risk-free because you can skip any month with no penalty if for some reason you're not interested in those monthly selections, but I guarantee most of the time you're gonna be absolutely obsessed with these monthly selections. I mean, I know that I am. I know the day that Book of the Month announces their books for the month is the best day of the month for me, shortly after the day that they get delivered in this beautiful blue box, of course. Book of the Month has also recently launched curated audiobooks in addition to the hardcovers, which you can download and listen to right in the app. So now they have 2 different formats, so every month you can be choosing a hardcover book or you can be choosing the audiobook. Plus, they still have the best prices for new hardcover fiction books, because right now if you walk into any bookstore, you're most likely going to find a hardcover fiction book for anywhere from $26, $28, even up to $30. But this month, for a limited time, when you use the code RESET, you can get your first book for just $5. That is less than a cup of coffee at most places, and you can get a new hardcover fiction book. And this month I ended up choosing 2 of their thriller picks because I am a thriller girly and I could not resist. So the first book I ended up choosing is The Fury, which is one of my most anticipated books of the year. This is from the same author as The Silent Patient, which is arguably one of my favorite thrillers of all time, and I've been highly anticipating this book. I'm actually going to be reading this book with my own book club for the month of March, so how perfect that you can pick it up with Book of the Month in January. And then I also ended up picking First Lie Wins, which is another thriller pick that I'm so excited about. I actually just saw that Reese Witherspoon announced this as her book club pick for the month, so like how cool that you can get this one from Book of the Month as well. Book of the Month not only has these 2 as selections for the month of January, but they have a few other picks that I was very intrigued by as well. Like, it was very hard to choose this month, not gonna lie. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video, and now is when the fun begins, because now I get to share with you the Winterween music video that my sister and I have been working on. If you weren't around for Summerween, then you might not know what I'm talking about. But basically during Summerween, I had the most fun time of my life because I rewrote the lyrics to a Taylor Swift song to make it more like themed around Summerween, and then we filmed a whole music video for it. It was called Ghosts on the Beach, and it was like one of the most fun things that I did last year. And so I decided for Winterween, of course I have to do it again, right? Of course! Like, who would I be now if I hosted these readathons and I didn't bring you a Taylor Swift cheesy rewrite music video that's centered around the readathon? Like, it's kind of my brand now. I'm making it my brand. And so here you have the song Back to October, which is, you know, a Back to December rewrite featuring my sister as our witch. And this is the music video that we worked on. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm so glad I finished my current read, but it was a little too scary. I won't get any sleep tonight. It's been cold, snowier than ever. I don't mind, the colder the better. This pumpkin spice will keep me warm, because the last book that scared me is still burned in the back of my mind. It gave me nightmares, but I read till my Kindle died. So this is me reading my scary books in the dark with my broom in my room, wishing it was still Halloween. And I go back to October all the time. It turns out winter's too cold for me, and I don't love the heat. Autumn is the only time that I feel seen. I go back to October, spooky seasons when I'm most alive. I go back to October all the time. The pumpkins, the fall leaves, the pumpkin pumpkin patch and the vibes, and how this latte warmed my soul that September night, the first time I really felt alive. Maybe this is wishful thinking, probably mindless dreaming. If it's October again, I swear I'd be alright. I'd go back in time and change it, but I can't. So for now, Winterween will be my plan. So this is me reading my scary books in the dark with my broom in my room, wishing it was still Halloween. And I go back to October. It turns out winter's too cold for me, and I don't love the heat. Autumn is the only time that I feel me. I go back to October, spooky seasons when I'm most alive. I go back to October, turn around and hit the rewind. I go back to October all the time. All the time.
So that was the music video. I hope you enjoyed it. Me and my sister had the most fun, like literally the time of our lives making this video. If you couldn't tell, I know that it's cheesy. I know that. We all know that, but that's kind of the point. You know, like they're just fun. So I hope that you enjoyed the music video this year. This afternoon, I actually started early on my Winterween TBR because I could not wait any longer. So I've been reading Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. I actually have this audiobook checked out from the library and I've been listening to it all day. I went to the gym this afternoon. I was listening to it at the gym and I'm now 70% of the way through the audiobook. Like it just happened so fast. The story just reads so fast. I haven't been able to put it down all day. So this one is a horror book and it's perfect for Winterween. Like it is absolutely perfect because the snowy atmosphere is so intense in this one. We're following this protagonist named Krista and she's going to be joining this tour group that are a bunch of travelers who are going to be going into the snowy mountains of like the Rocky Mountains. And then there's this really bad snowstorm that just completely wrecks that whole area. And not only does her love interest dude, like the guy that she showed up with, he goes missing, but then also their tour guide, Brian, this man, he also goes missing. And then the next morning after the tour guide goes missing, they go out into the wilderness to search for him and they find his severed head on a fucking tree branch. Tank just showed up because he was like, wait, tell me more. Tell me more about this creepy book. And so this book is not fucking around. Like, oh my gosh. And I am absolutely shocked because the only Darcy Coates book that I have read personally so far was The Haunting of Ashburn House, and that was more of a cozy horror, and it really wasn't my thing, but there is nothing cozy about this one. Like, holy shit, this book has been so intense so far, and it's becoming one of those things where like people are starting to just get picked off like one by one. Like people keep going missing and then turning up dead, and it's so creepy. You're trying to figure out like what is actually going on, all during the snowstorm. Like the snowy atmosphere is really well done in this so far. Like there was a scene almost right in the beginning of this book where she kind of gets like buried under some snow, and like, oh my gosh, my inner like claustrophobic like totally came out. Like I couldn't even deal with that scene. It's just been a really entertaining read so far and absolutely perfect for Winterween. Like this is exactly what I wanted One by One by Ruth Ware to be. Like this is everything that I was hoping that book would be. So hopefully this one ends up delivering. So I do think I'm gonna try to finish up this Darcy Coates book before the end of the night and before the readathon officially kicks off tomorrow. I do have some reading sprints scheduled with my Patreon tomorrow morning, and then I'm gonna be doing reading sprints again with my friends Gavin and Jesse over on YouTube on Saturday. And some of the books, just to give you an idea of what I'm planning to read for this readathon, include No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. I could not be more excited about this one. I'm also planning to reread If We Were Villains because this is a book that I read years ago that I really loved, that I would love to reread again. I have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches on my TBR for this week, as well as Payback's a Witch. I also have This Spells Disaster as a potential pick for my TBR. I mean, this one's purple and it has witches and it's a romance, so like sign me up. I just checked out this one as well called A Guest in the House, and this one is more of like a graphic novel that just looks like it's gonna be so beautiful. So I'm debating reading this one in the dark one of these nights because I feel like this would be a cool one to do with that. And then I also just pulled off these books off of my bookshelf. I have Can't Look Away, this one mostly because it's so purple, right? Like it would be perfect for that prompt. And then I also have Leech, which is a book that I'm very intrigued by. I know that this one is said to have a very like snowy, wintry atmosphere, and because it was just in Kayla's like top 10 books of the year, I'm like, okay, very intrigued by this one. Anyways, let's get this readathon started. happy Winterween day 1. Last night I did end up finishing Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates, and I really ended up enjoying this one. I felt like I was literally freezing the entire time that I read this book, which I think is great. It has this really great snowy atmosphere throughout the entire book. And there was one thing towards the end that I was like, okay, like I kind of saw that coming, but then there was another thing that I was like, wait, I definitely did not see that coming. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I think I'm probably gonna give it like 4 stars, at least in comparison to my other Darcy Coates experience. Like I ended up enjoying this one so much more, and now this has me actually really curious to check out some more books from Darcy Coates because now I know that I can enjoy something from her, so that's a huge win for me. I started on the reading sprints on Patreon, and me and Rachel were in the room here and we got to premiere the like little music video that we made that you saw at the beginning of this video, and it was so much fun to get everybody's like real-time responses. Like it was just so great to do that. I really love doing that. I think I'm gonna continue to do that with these readathons because like there's something so special to me about getting to like premiere it and see everybody's like live reactions. It's kind of my favorite thing ever, so that was a really great morning. And then ever since we kicked off these sprints almost an hour ago, I have started listening to Payback's A Witch on audio, and I'm now 60 pages in. I'm on chapter 6, and I feel so stupid because I knew that this book was a romance, and when I had originally heard about this book, I was like, oh, I thought it was queer and like sapphic, and I thought it was a female-female romance, but then I read just the top of the description here, and it said that we're following this character named Emmy, who's a witch, but she's not a very powerful witch, and she's going back to her little magical hometown that's called Thistle Grove. She hasn't been there in years, but I only read the very top paragraph on the back here where it says her self-imposed exile has a lot to do with a complicated family history and the tiniest bit to do with Gareth Blackmore. And so I was like, oh, it's actually a romance with this guy Gareth Blackmore. And so I started reading it and I was like, oh, it's just like a female and male romance. But then, oh wait, I didn't read the rest of it. She wants to spend some more time with her best friend whose name is Lyndon. And then it says on her first night home, she runs into Talia, who's an all-around badass in the darker magical arts. And she's actually fresh off a breakup with this guy Gareth. So like, I think they were both involved with the same guy named Gareth. This is all in the premise, by the way, none of this is spoilery. But they also discover that her best friend Lyndon is also currently with this guy Gareth. He's been playing both this girl Talia and her best friend Lyndon. Like he's been 2-timing them. He's with both of them and they don't know. They're all pissed, and so they're like, we have to get payback against him. So it's about these 3 girls who were all teaming up to get revenge against this man. And now I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I think the romance is actually between our protagonist and this girl Talia, who's like this total baddie. So now I'm even more excited to read this because I did originally think that this was queer, and then for some reason I only read that top part and I was like, oh, it's actually not queer. And now that I know that it is queer and it's between the 2 girls, like I am 10 times more invested. I definitely wanted to read this one for Winterween though. I mean, I had to, right? Because there's literally witch in the title of the book. It's about witches. There's purple on the cover. Like this could not be the more perfect read for Winterween for me. This one is a little bit on the lengthier side. It's about 340 pages, but I am determined to at least, if not finish this one, I want to get a good chunk of this one done today.
Keeping track of is the weather, and there's no wind, no sun, nothing. 80 days and I'm not feeling better, but a sweet relief is finding me. There's no love under the portrait.
sunlight as we speak, but I have finished up the Patreon reading sprints. I decided to take a trip down to the grocery store just because I wanted to pick up a few things for dinner for this week, and we were just running really low on some groceries, so I came down here. But during this entire day, I have completely finished listening to Payback's A Witch. I actually listened to about 80% of this while I was on sprints, and then I just finished up the last bit on the drive down here and in the grocery store, and this book was okay. I feel like I'm probably gonna end up giving this around 3 stars. I definitely enjoyed the romance between the 2 girls in this book. Like, that was definitely the thing that kept me the most invested during the entire story. But however, there were some parts of the story that were dealing more with like their magic, and like it felt more fantasy, and like those parts, I feel like my eyes just completely like glazed over. Like, I did not really care about that. I didn't really care about the plot of this book and like what was happening in their town. I was only really here for the romance and for the like getting revenge against this guy, which was really fun to read, but at the same time, like, I didn't care a lot about the plot otherwise. I also feel like the conflict towards the end of this book was actually kind of of annoying. Like, I don't know, because sometimes in romance books, I do think that the conflict is like interesting and it just adds so many layers to the story, and I like to see where each character is coming from. Then in this one, I just felt mostly annoyed by the conflict that was happening in this book. I was like, they're both just being stubborn, and for what? Like, it was annoying. I also feel like this one took a long time to get to the ending, or like every chapter towards the end, I kept being like, oh, this is the last chapter. Oh, this is the last chapter. Oh, this is the last chapter. It just felt like it kept going on for like almost another hour in the audiobook when I didn't feel like it needed to be that long, even though the audiobook was only 10 hours. But for some reason, this just still felt a little bit long to me. I think it's because this book is like 340 pages. Like, I don't think it needed to be quite that long. But yeah, overall, it was a 3-star. I'm glad that I finally finished it. Right now, while I was at Safeway, I just picked up a few things so that tonight we can make some potato soup and then like some turkey sandwiches. I think my sister and we might watch something later tonight. I've been really wanting to watch the movie Past Lives, so I'm gonna try to convince my sister to watch that with me tonight. Hello, it's almost 10 o'clock at night now, and me and my sister, we ended up watching Past Lives, which we ended up renting on Amazon Prime. Oh my god, dude, that movie wrecked me, even harder than I was expecting it to. I mean, I knew that I was gonna love that movie, just the way that everybody was talking about it. I was like, this feels like a movie that's honestly like meant just for me. I've always been very vocal about the fact that I freaking love New York City, and like that's one of my favorite places in the world. And then also recently, within the last like 2 years or so, I've just gotten really obsessed with like South Korea and Seoul, and like that's a place that I really want to go to, like more than anything. And so the fact that this entire movie takes place in both New York City and Seoul, it just really felt like a movie that was specifically made just for me. I feel like this movie is one of those movies that really like makes you think about your life and like the choices that you've made and how different your life could look if you had made some different choices. And it was just beautiful. Like, these two characters had so much chemistry. Like, they were so freaking cute, but also like the screenplay was just so well done. Like, I was moved to tears 2 times. One of the times was at the end because the ending was just really beautiful and really like heartbreaking and just made me feel a lot of things. And then there was also a line where, you know, she was like laying in bed with her husband, and this conversation that they had just literally brought me to tears. Like, it almost made me sob. It was just so beautiful and so well done, and I feel like a lot of people are really gonna relate to this movie. I just felt so much for all of the characters. Like, I feel like all of the characters were really well fleshed out, and it was just so beautifully done, and wow, I'm gonna be thinking about this movie for a long time. Like, I just thought it was so good. Now it's almost 10 o'clock at night. I figured now would be a good time to lay in bed and read A Guest in the House by Emily Carroll. This one is one that I don't know too much about. I actually don't even know genre-wise if this one is like horror. I don't really know. I know that we're following this woman who's really lonely after she's gotten married. It says she married this man who's a recently widowed dentist when he arrived in town with his young daughter seeking a new start. Oh, and it says the more she learns about her new husband's first wife, the more that things don't add up, and Abby starts to wonder, was Shelia's death really by natural causes? So it does seem like it's gonna be some kind of either like mystery thriller or horror. I'm not too sure, but I was just flipping through this book earlier and the art looks absolutely stunning. Like, half of it looks like it's in black and white, and then the other half looks like it's this like really beautiful color. So I think I'm actually gonna read this like in the dark. I'm gonna shut off all the lights in my room, and then I have this cute little reading light that I'm just gonna use this to read the book because I think that would be the most fun way to do it. Hello, and happy day 2 of Winterween. In typical, you know, Washington fashion, it is very dark and rainy outside today. I had to literally turn on like all the lighting in my room. I don't know if you can tell because the lighting actually looks decent right now, but it is so dark in here. And last night we had the most loud wind and rainstorm. I think the gusts of wind got up to like, I don't know, like 35 miles per hour. And it was just so loud and so rainy, but it was kind of like perfect reading weather because I ended up reading the entirety of A Guest in the House while I was like laying there in the dark. And this book was interesting. It was definitely a bit of a mystery kind of thriller and a little bit of a horror. Like there were definitely some creepy elements to this book. There were a few scenes in particular that were like extra creepy to read in the dark because it had to deal with like the idea of like a woman in a lake kind of thing. I think overall, I don't know, I'm torn between giving this like around a 3.5 star or a 4 star. Like I really did enjoy this. I think my only issue with it is the ending. Like the ending was a little bit confusing and very abrupt, and I was just like, oh, okay, like that's how it ends. There was some kind of like plot twist thing that got revealed literally within the last like 3 pages that I found to be so confusing. Like I feel like it's almost so confusing to the point where I would need to reread the entire book to understand. But like overall, the story was really well done. Like I loved the art style in this. I loved the way it would go back and forth between like the black and white and the color. I also thought this was such an accurate portrayal of like mental illness and like depression. It was really sad, but also just like really beautiful, and I don't know, I really enjoyed this one, so I'm glad that I read it. This morning, it's already about 10:30. I actually slept in a little bit late, but you know, it's because I had the weirdest nightmares last night. No, I don't think we can credit this book for giving me the nightmares. I don't know why. Sometimes when it's windy outside, it just really makes me anxious before I fall asleep. So I think that's mainly the reason why I probably had nightmares. But like, oh my gosh, my nightmares felt so realistic, and I woke up like sweating and like shaking. It's like one of those nights where I slept a lot of hours, I think, because I think I did pass out before 1 a.m. and I slept through to almost 10 a.m., but it was a restless sleep because I was just like rolling around and like having nightmares all night, and it was not fun. But anyways, it's about 10:30 right now. I think I'm going to get some breakfast. I'm just gonna make breakfast downstairs, I think, and then I might go out and get coffee before I start my reading sprints, because at noon today at 12, I'm gonna be starting some reading sprints on my public YouTube channel with Gavin and Jesse. I'm not entirely sure which book I'm wanting to read today. I'm kind of leaning towards one of these two, but because I just read the like witchy romance book yesterday, I don't know if I'm in the mood for something like this back to back, so maybe I'll have to start on Leech, even though I know this wasn't originally on my Winterween TBR. But the way that this book is described to have like the perfect winter setting, I think this would be the perfect book to read during Winterween.
A 16-ounce iced caramel macchiato. Awesome, this is for you. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Hello to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to do some Winterween reading sprints.
I got to page 53.
I got to page 50 and I decided to DNF it. I don't like it.
Gabby.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so confused. I'm like, what is going on?
I mean, it's strange. It is strange.
Hello, I wanted to do a quick update because it is nearly 3 o'clock in the afternoon now. I have been doing reading sprints on my YouTube channel with my friends Jesse and Gavin pretty much the entire afternoon. I had started on the book Leech, and it was funny because me and Gavin were actually both going to be reading this book today because he's reading it for a book club, and I just said that I so happened to desire to read this book today. But unfortunately, I got about 50 pages into this book before I decided to DNF because I was just not really feeling this. For some reason, I wasn't really clicking with the writing style, and I found the writing to be like very dense in a way that my brain was not currently prepared. I just think the writing style is a little bit intense in this book and a little bit hard to understand. I feel like, especially with this main character, like I have no idea what is going on in this book. Like I don't even have a single clue. It's kind of interesting because in the first chapter, we're following from the point of view of this character who's a doctor, I think, and they're going to this like isolated institution place that's like dealing with a snowstorm, and like it's very like stormy atmosphere vibes. But they go into this place and they are taking out this creature from this body that has recently died. Like they're pulling something out of the body. They say they take out the creature that's inside and they realize it is already dead. And then the chapter ends with, "It appears I have a competitor." Like, what the actual fuck does that mean? I don't know, I'm intrigued by this one, but at the same time, I'm just not really clicking with the writing style. Like, I mean, as I said, the writing style I'm finding to be very dense. I'm still kind of confused, like I have no idea what's going on. And it's just not exactly something that I'm in the mood for right now, so I think I am just gonna DNF this for now. I don't know if I'm gonna try to finish this up later this week. On the last sprint that I was doing, I ended up starting on If We Were Villains. This one is actually a reread for me. I actually thought that I first read this in like 2017 or 2018, but I just looked on Goodreads and it was actually 2019 was the first time that I read this book. And during that first sprint, I just got about like 70 pages into it. And so far it's been a little bit of a slow start. I actually like looked up my Goodreads review because I wanted to see what I said the first time that I read this. And in my initial Goodreads review, I actually did say it took me a long time to get invested in. The first 100 pages were really slow, but then once the story picks up, I started to like it a lot more. So like, I'm glad to hear that as far as it's going right now, like I'm on the same page as I was with my past self in thinking that the beginning of this is very slow. Like it's a lot slower than I remember. And in this story, we're following these like 7 college students who are kind of pretentious. Like they're a little bit pretentious, you know, like they're studying Shakespeare and they're like working on these theater plays, which like I don't really care too much about reading about theater, which I remember is something that I was probably bored with the first time that I read this book. But so far in these first 70 pages, it's just been a lot of like their theater, you know, rehearsals and practicing with their play and the theater talk. And I just don't really care too much so far in the story. So I'm hoping that the story and like the plot really starts to pick up soon, which I think that it will. But my memories on this story are so vague. So it's kind of cool to reread something that I read about 5 years ago now. I do still love one of the opening lines in the book says, "There were 7 of us, 7 bright young things with wide precious futures ahead of us, though we saw no further than the books in front of our faces." I do love that. I do love the way that this book is written. Anyways, I think I'm just gonna continue with this one. I still have one more reading sprint that I'm doing with Jesse and Gavin right now. So I'm gonna try to get a little bit more of this done today. And then I think this afternoon, before the sun goes down, I would really like to get over to the gym. I've been trying to do, you know, ever since the new year started, I've been trying to commit to my going to the gym every other day schedule. And since I didn't go yesterday, I want to go today. Like, that's the plan. Look at this sweet little baby behind me. Oh, dang. He gets really like nervous and sad when Rachel and Obed are not home. He's very attached, very much. Okay, hi, it's about 6 o'clock at night. I just got home from the gym and like, dude, I went so freaking hard at the gym this afternoon. I just really wanted to, you know, completely tire myself out to the point of exhaustion because I really want to sleep well tonight. I don't know, I feel like I've been so off today and I feel like it partially has to do with the fact that I slept so terribly last night. I did read a little bit more of If We Were Villains during that last sprint that I was doing with my friends. I got up to page 108 and like, I don't know if I'm really feeling this right now. Like, I remember the beginning being slow, but it's just taking me so long to get invested in this, and like the last thing that I need right now is to fall into a reading slump like literally during this readathon. So I don't know if I'm gonna continue with this one. At least I don't know if I'm gonna continue with it tomorrow. I might try to finish it before the end of the week, but I'm not really sure how I'm feeling yet. I think I'm probably gonna end up ending this vlog here because I do feel like this vlog is already long enough as it is, but also because I don't see myself doing any more reading tonight. I really think I need to just take a break from it tonight and start fresh again in the morning. So you'll have to let me know, how is Winterween going for you so far? What have you been reading? Have you been enjoying the books that you're reading? I feel like even though today felt like an epic fail reading wise, I still feel really good about the books that I've been reading for this readathon so far. I think it'll be really great for me to start fresh tomorrow morning on day 3. And so yeah, you can look forward to 2 more Winterween vlogs coming from me. I should be vlogging the next 2 days for another vlog, and then the last 3 days will all be combined into one vlog, so hopefully you will enjoy these vlogs. I'm just really happy that Winterween is back this year. I just really missed it and I think it's so much fun. And so let me know what you've been reading this week and what you've been up to, and I will see you very soon with another vlog. Bye!